So you got into stocks.
Yep.
You made your money. Now you're like, okay, what's the next play?
Mm-hmm.
So then from there, you thought about the real estate market.
Yeah. Well, I mean, initially, I was like, oh, I'm retired now. I don't have to do anything, right? So I was kind of talking to it with you, right? I was saying, vegetation became a thing. You just lay there, don't have to do anything. You can be lazy, right? Literally, you don't have to do much, right? There's no more hustle. So there was I call it, it's kind of pathetic, but it is a term I think people need to be aware of. There comes a point of wealth depression. I call it wealth depression because people don't realize that once there's no hustle anymore, what am I doing? So I call it like a rebirth almost. Like once you cross a point where you don't have to work anymore, you have to figure out what you're here for.
You lost your why.
Yes, that's it. Because now you have the thing you were looking for. Right?
Isn't that interesting?
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy how life works.
It's insane, man.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So, so to answer your question, it wasn't immediately going to real estate. So when I made, my first set of millions, I stopped flying. I stopped drumming. I started being this guy that's just like, oh, I can just do what I want when I want. Like, I don't care. Life has no rules anymore, right? Ergo, life has no rules, right? But the point, you get my point, right? And that's a quick way to an early death, right? Like, that's how that goes, right? So, literally.
Did you go through a splurge phase?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, when you first started making,
Yeah, of course.
What can you share with us? Like your dumbest purchase?
My dumbest purchase.
Yeah.
Oh man, what would be the dumbest one? The dumbest one. I don't know. I think I spent it was like $200K on a trip to Dubai or something. It was something stupid.
For how long? Like it was
it was for no. It was like for 15 days. Like the Emirates first class tickets. I don't know if you guys know.
Yeah, like 20 grand.
They're 20, 30K a piece, right? So my girlfriend at the time, but this is my fiance now. Yeah, I just splurge on it. We stayed at the craziest hotels in the Burj and just stupid money spent on stupid stuff that ultimately, once I did that, I was like, okay, well now I've done that. What was the point of that? What was the point,
just so
right?
You could do it.
Yeah, but it's kind of like you realize.
15 days.
Yeah.
200 racks. So that's like what? That's like 20. It's like almost 15, 20 G's a day.
Yeah.
Sounds like my trip to Dubai, dude.
Bro, this guy probably paid like $200 for his ticket.
I actually did, bro. I used my points.
Now that's smart. I like that. Yeah, and you know what? Then you realize really quickly that you're seriously a nobody with just a few $1,000,000. Like you just enter you're a small fish in a way bigger pond.
Oh
now,
yes,
right?
yeah, for sure.
Who are you trying to be spending $200K even in 15 days? There's someone that's spending 10 million today, and
they don't even looking at it. Yeah.
Right. So
Insane.
yeah. So anyway, so that's why. So I had that phase, but ultimately coming back to what you were saying, like the real estate thing, it wasn't until I stopped flying, I stopped drumming, I stopped doing all that stuff, right, when I got into money. And I realized that, this ain't the life I want to have, right? This isn't what I want to be about. This isn't, who I am, et cetera, et cetera. So I realized that, the biggest thing for me is when I saw that I had monetary success, my friends around me, they take notice, right? Like, what the why are you rolling around this way now, right? Like $200K in Dubai, right? Stuff like that. They're like, what's going on? Like, what's happened to you? And then I realized that there was a few of them that were interested in what I had done in the stock market, right? Because most of it I kept under wraps. I talked about the stock market, but, I didn't really talk about my results with anybody. I didn't really feel like that was a place to show off or anything. And money is such an emotional topic for most people. They don't really, it's kind of weird. It triggers people. If they find out you're doing really well, they almost don't want to know about it, right? It's kind of strange. Obviously, depending on the circle that you're in. The circle that I was in. There was a few of them that were interested in what I had done. And they're like, hey, can you teach me? And I said, yeah, sure. So I took it upon myself. This is around 2018, 17 and 18, where I started showing them the process that I've used to trade. And they started finding success. And then I was like, okay, so there's something here. There's something that I can pass on, right? And then probably in a weird, self-fulfilling way, I felt like, oh my God, that's kind of cool that I can show someone how to make money and they didn't know anything. And so I took that further and further and further. And it wasn't until the pandemic where I was like, you know what? I'm going to roll this out full tilt. And I'm going to see if I can come in a very difficult space full of a lot of nonsense, a lot of claims, a lot of BS, and try to be the one that that's the difference maker and it's real. That's going to actually show you the reality to what the stock market is and how it ebbs and flows like. Yeah, so I kind of got into the space of teaching this game, of teaching what's worked for me. I will never tell somebody what to do. I'll just tell them, listen, this is what I do. This is what I'm looking for. This is why I look for what I look for. Look for the same thing. See if you can see what I see, right? And we're like, yeah, I see it. I'm like, okay, cool. So then this is what I would do in this case. I'm like, okay, they take the position, they see that the exact same thing that I talked about that was going to happen ends up happening. Like, oh my God, is that what it is? Yeah, that's what it is. That's how this game works. That's how the price manipulations happen. So yes, I started getting into the game of teaching, and then all the sort of accumulated wealth that was there went into real estate. And I realized quickly with real estate, it's a pain in the ass. It's a really big pain in the ass. Because, okay, so now you have your money tied up into these properties, and you have tenants in some cases they're pre-built investments and stuff that you're buying for the future that you're monetize, and like the amount of monetary tie-up and the need for lawyers to get deals done, and mortgages sometimes if you want to go in big sense, like let's say you want to get like you have $5 million cash, you want to get a $10 million place, well you still have a mortgage need, right? So having to satisfy financing needs when I could just take that same money and just work with it in the market, or have it work with me passively just by being in a fund, or working with like a private wealth private banking. It's sort of, I got more interested in reducing my real estate portfolio, right? So now I'm down to only like having 6 properties. I don't have many properties anymore. Most of my money is just being worked for me in the markets, or I work it.